Hello out there. We're on the air. Welcome back. Welcome to another day of the Bitcoin journey. I think yesterday I called it the Bitcoin journal. I'm not sure. It's pretty early here in the morning, so my brain is never really at full capacity, especially to start the show. So it is the Bitcoin journey, not the Bitcoin journal. My bad. But it is Wednesday. It is hump day. And we're going to do our daily weather check. It's colder today. I'm thinking the over-under, I'm going 15, minus 15, and I'm going to take the over. Yeah, I don't like the looks of this. Nope. Minus 11. Maybe just not paying the heating bills here. Good morning, Johnny. Good morning, anybody else out there on YouTube, on Rumble. Zap.stream cramped out on me again. So I don't know. I think we're just going to scrap that one for now. We'll focus on the YouTubes and the Rumbles. So what do we got going on today? Let's start with the mempool. I also just realized that I have to do something here on one of these browsers. Okay, lots going on. I'll get better at this. Forgive me. So we just crossed the line into block height 819. So we're in the 819s. Welcome to 819. 819000 is the block height today. And as a reminder, that's how many blocks have been mined since the Genesis block back in 2009. Johnny's in Florida. You would be. You would throw that out there. It's not bad here right now. It's just about December, and it's kind of expected. Minus 11 is actually pretty chill for this time of year. But I wish I was in Florida for sure. So the block height we talked about, we got the sats per VByte. Right now, if you're transacting on layer 1, you're paying about 43 sats per VByte, which is higher than the last 10, I'd say. The average in the last little while has been about 31 sats per VByte. So we're moving in the right direction. All right, where's the rest of my stuff here? The price today is up once again. We're in the 38,000s. Think this is the second show I've done with 38,000 bucks in there. So it's 38,161 US dollars today. 1 year ago today, Bitcoin was 16,441 US dollars. And 4 years ago, in our 4-year Bitcoin cycle, the price of one Bitcoin was 7,777 US dollars. 4 short years ago. If you got $1 US in your pocket, you can exchange that for 2,618 sats. And here in Canada, it is cold and Bitcoin is up to 51,813 Canadian dollars. If you got a dollar kicking around, if you got a loonie, you can get 1,928 sats for that. So that's the metrics today. I'm also going to bring up this nice meme that I found this morning. Oh, that's the wrong website. Also want to give a big happy birthday to my dad. November the 29th, many years ago, the best man to ever walk the earth was born. So happy birthday to my dad. I get to see him this weekend. We're having a party for him. It's a milestone birthday. I won't say the number, but he has been, I wouldn't be where I am without my dad. Let's just say that. He's had such an amazing impact on my life. And I probably don't tell him that enough, but I think that he knows deep down. So here's the meme for this morning. There's a politician or a leader at the end of the dock over a cliff, and he's shouting, "You have to work the rest of your life for paper money, that we create out of thin air and make you borrow from us and then charge you interest and taxes on it. And at the other side of that plank is a whole bunch of people, us, realizing that if we get off that plank, they fall. And there's one guy walking away saying, fuck this, with a little Bitcoin logo on him. And that's kind of what people are failing to put together right now, is that things are really messed up in the world. I mean, we got a lot of really good things going for us, but I'm sure anybody listening to this can attest to that. Things are a little bit weird. People are starting to feel it, but the majority of people are still missing the fact that it's the money. That's the problem. The money is the root of all evil. It's an old saying, old expression, but very true, and especially true today. We've been over 100 years in this fiat system, and it's time to move on, I would say. So one last time, big shout out to my dad. Happy birthday, and we'll see you this weekend. Let's talk about a few things happening in the world right now. The highlights. Only one highlight today, and that's an update on our whale. The whale that we talked about, who has been buying 500 Bitcoin every morning. So yesterday, this mysterious new whale bought 539 Bitcoin. The day before that, they bought 1,178 Bitcoin, bringing their total to 10,300 Bitcoin in the last month. That's when they started buying. And since then, in 1 month, they've moved all the way up from 0 to number 73 on the Bitcoin rich list. I love that there's a Bitcoin rich list now. The cool thing about Bitcoin is that it is anonymous, but you can also see how many Bitcoin people are holding. And we get told by Time Magazine and all these different publications about who the richest people are in the world. They say that Elon Musk is up there. They say that Bill Gates is up there. You can Google the richest people on the planet, but that's only the people that they want you to know of, right? There's families out there who have trillions and trillions, I shouldn't say trillions and trillions, but trillions of dollars that we don't even know their name. But with Bitcoin, we can see exactly the highest wallets. We don't know who they are, but we can see who they are. So this new whale has moved up from 0 to 73rd on the Bitcoin rich list. Interested to see who that is. There are some speculations, of course, as with anything, but we really have no idea at this point. And I think a lot of people believe that it's BlackRock buying that much. How much US dollars is that? I'm going to do this quickly. So they've accumulated 10,000 Bitcoin in the month times 38,000. Is that right? 380 million? Yeah, I guess so. 380 million. So people think that it's BlackRock. I don't think that it's BlackRock. And the reason for that is because how could BlackRock be buying right now? They are probably the biggest company on earth. I don't think that they can really just go out and start buying things without many, many people knowing about it. That's usually how public company works, is you can't just start randomly buying Bitcoin. And the amount of, I think that they're already in the process of building their team in order to secure that Bitcoin. Because that's another thing. And that's one thing that I get tripped up on, just wanting this to move faster. But the reality is that these public companies, in order for them to adopt Bitcoin without an ETF, is pretty tough. Think about the amount of work they would need to do to set up a security setup that's sufficient for the board of directors, for their shareholders. It's tough, very tough. I think it would take years to do. because it is much different than the legacy system. And that's why this ETF, I believe, is going to be so massive for Bitcoin. And that's what this is about today. I titled this episode, The Opportunity of a Lifetime. And that's kind of where we are right now. We're in a very weird point in history where we know something. It's like we have a crystal ball. We know exactly what's coming. We can prepare for it, but most people are just choosing not to. Most people are going to wait for the ETF to be announced. Then they're going to start educating themselves a little bit, or they'll just buy. But by that time, it's going to be far too late. So we have the crystal ball right in front of ourselves right now. We know that there's more than 10 major companies, investment companies, who are going to be able to purchase Bitcoin sometime in the next year, I would say. But it could also happen any day now. So we have the ability to front run the biggest institutions in the world right now. And most people and most investment advisors out there are choosing not to, which is pretty sad. But what do we know about this? One show that I was watching yesterday, one of my favorite shows to watch in the morning, is a guy named Ben. And he was talking about how BlackRock has been buying mining companies since 2021. So although BlackRock can't outright buy Bitcoin right now, legally, I think legally, but logistically as well, they have been buying shares in mining company. They've been buying shares in Riot. They've been buying shares in Hut 8, TeraWolf. There's 5 major mining companies that BlackRock has been acquiring shares in for the last 2 years. So what does that mean? To me, that would suggest that BlackRock has been preparing for this without officially buying Bitcoin and without officially announcing it until a couple months ago now. But with that, they can purchase influence in these companies. And I'm sure that there's some conversations happening in the background. This is pure speculation. But I'm sure that there has been conversations going on in the background telling these companies to hold their Bitcoin. Because when companies like Riot, like Hut 8, when they mine Bitcoin, they have the decision to make. Do they want to sell that Bitcoin to fund their operations? Because they have a lot of costs involved with mining Bitcoin. Do they want to sell that Bitcoin, or do they want to hold on to it? And it seems like the majority of mining companies at this stage, especially, are holding on to those Bitcoin because we have a huge supply crunch coming. And so BlackRock is probably, this is speculative, as I said, probably instructing these companies to hold their Bitcoin for the moment that this ETF is announced and BlackRock can officially start buying Bitcoin. So when that happens, and probably between then and now, if I had to guess, BlackRock or one of their associated companies, one of their shell companies, could be providing liquidity to these mining companies if they need to. So the flip side of this, in terms of a mining company, just to kind of zoom in on this part of it, as a mining company, they have huge electricity costs, huge energy costs, and they need to fund those with dollars. And so they have 2 options. They can either sell Bitcoin to fund it, have some cash flow running in, or they can hold on to that Bitcoin and take out different loans from companies like BlackRock, like their associate companies, in order to get cash. And then once BlackRock is able to officially buy Bitcoin, they start repaying those loans in Bitcoin to BlackRock. So it's kind of a win-win for both parties. But I think it's something that's happening in the background and has been happening since 2021. And the reason for that is that we're coming up to the 4th halving year. Good morning. I don't even want to say that name because I don't know how to pronounce it or if it's your name. I don't like saying usernames, but good morning. Glad to have you here once again. Where was I here? So we got the 4th halving coming up in April 2024. which means the new supply of Bitcoin coming onto the market gets chopped in half once again. So it's going to go from 6.25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes to 3.12, whatever that number is, every 10 minutes. So that's a big drop. And at that point, 97% of Bitcoin that will ever be created will have been mined. 97% this April coming up, meaning there's only 3% left to be mined. So all of this institutional money coming in, what's going to happen with that? Where are they going to get the Bitcoin? And so that's why I think that companies like BlackRock have been acquiring these mining companies to hold on to this Bitcoin. And then once they have the green light, that's when it's all going to start flowing into BlackRock and be able to offer that to their clients as an ETF. Would I take out a loan or a loan to Bitcoin in order not to sell? Right now, I would never advise anybody to take out a loan. I don't want to start giving investment advice on this channel. This is more of a focus on doing things the right way, learning different security processes. There are channels who give investment advice on that kind of stuff. This is not one of them. I would say that, no, I'm not going to go there. Sorry. So Johnny asks, how do they buy that much Bitcoin over the How do they buy that much Bitcoin over the counter? I think, like I said, I think that companies like BlackRock aren't stupid. They've had some very smart people for the last 10 years, maybe not 10 years, but 3 years for sure, looking into Bitcoin, looking into the impact it's going to have on the financial system. They've been preparing for this. They didn't wake up one day and decide that they want to offer Bitcoin to their clients. They have a team ready. They've been doing research for years. They have mining companies that they've been acquiring shares in for this. And I'm sure that they've been telling them to hold on to that Bitcoin. Once we see they're all public companies. So once we see the ETF be approved, I think that we're going to see a huge outflow of Bitcoin from these mining companies because they're going to start flowing to the companies like BlackRock, like Fidelity, like Franklin Templeton. So I think that they probably do have some companies buying Bitcoin in the background. I don't think that it's that much though. Because if it was, I think that they would have to report it, and I think that the price would have jumped up much more. And whenever this ETF is approved, there's people making some crazy price predictions for 2024, and I would probably be one of those people doing the same, either 24 or 25. It's gonna make some heads explode just because there's so much capital that's going to be flowing into this. And there's not going to be a whole lot of people like me, and I don't have a huge amount of Bitcoin, but I know that there are lots of people out there exactly like me who will not be selling. And you have to consider that into the price, even though it says on Coin Market Cap that the price of Bitcoin today is 38,000 US dollars. For one, it's impossible to compare it to a currency like the US dollar because we don't know how many US dollars are out there. So how do you compare currencies like that when one is fixed and one is infinite? That's one. But at the same time, what is the true value of it? What's the actual real value of Bitcoin? If there's 1,000 or tens of thousands of people out there exactly like me who won't sell their Bitcoin until it gets to unimaginable amounts because we know what we're holding here. So is the price 38,000 US dollars or is the price $100 million US? Depends who you ask. I guess that there are people out there selling Bitcoin at this price, but I think that the majority of people holding on to Bitcoin right now wouldn't even consider selling it for less than $1 million. I don't know. It's crazy to think about. And these daily shows that I've been doing, are focused on people who are just getting into Bitcoin, thinking about it or have a little bit. And so with that in mind, this episode is more geared towards people to try and just see clearly for a second. It's tough because we're talking to people who have lived in this system for their entire lives. They can't even see what's happening. But that's kind of our job right now as people who hold Bitcoin, is to try to explain this to people, the fact that we see what's coming, we can get ahead of it. We have the opportunity of a lifetime to do this. And imagine back in 1990s, imagine you had, whether you're my age, older, or younger, imagine you had a chance to invest in the internet. And I'm not comparing Bitcoin to the internet or to the dot-com bubble that happened, because that was just basically a bunch of new companies getting on this internet and going for crazy amounts of money because everybody was just speculating on what it could be. And as it was running up, people didn't want to sell it until it was too late. But imagine going back there and being able to invest in the internet at that stage. But the difference here is that you could actually invest in the internet itself, because Bitcoin is not a website. It's not a company. It's a protocol like the internet. So although we couldn't invest in the internet itself as a protocol, we now have the chance to buy a small share in this protocol called Bitcoin. It's a tough one to say. And we can buy it before the richest people on earth have the opportunity to do it. That's crazy to me. And that's what I wanted to talk about. It is by far, and I kind of undersold it too, the opportunity of a lifetime. I think it's the opportunity of an entire generation. Because if you think about the Googles, the Apples, the big companies right now, the companies that hold the majority of people's wealth, do you think that those companies are going to be here in 500 years from now? I don't think so. 50 years maybe. Not 500 years though. Well, Bitcoin? Don't know for sure, but if I were to bet, it's a global currency. It requires physical, real energy to create. It can be sent anywhere in the world in seconds for pennies on the Lightning Network. I mean, I could go on and on and on. But the point is that look at this for a second as an investment. And we do have the opportunity right now to buy some Bitcoin, whether that's $5, $100, as much as you can without taking out a loan. And I guess in order to do that, one thing that I would say, if you're somebody who's just getting into this, or you just want to get more Bitcoin, start looking around your house, start looking for things that you can sell. Get some cash for it, whether that's an old laptop, some old clothes, whatever that is. Even if you can get $200, $300 in Canada here, you can actually take that $200 or $300 down to the post office, buy Bitcoin with that, send it to yourself anonymously, and learn how to hold on to that for the next 20 years. That will be the best 2 hours, the most profitable 2 hours you'll ever spend in your entire life. I don't care what else happens, what you do for work, what else, anything. That will be the most profitable, the best decision you'll make in your life. So think about that. You don't have to take out debt. You don't have to sell your car or your house to buy some Bitcoin. Just get a little bit. Sell things you don't need. Ask for some cash for your birthday or Christmas, depending on what age you are. And just go down to the post office in Canada, buy some Bitcoin, and sit on that for the next 20 years. This stuff isn't hard. You don't have to overthink it. And I'll leave it with this, because this is my favorite thing to talk about within Bitcoin, and that is the greatest economic recipe that's ever existed. So we've seen the demand going up over the years. Bitcoin, there's more and more people using Bitcoin. There's more and more people holding Bitcoin wallets. There's more and more people transacting on the Lightning Network of Bitcoin. We've seen the stats. Like, this isn't my opinion. The demand for Bitcoin is going up. And once this ETF is approved, it will go way up. So supply and demand. Demand's going up. Supply is fixed. 97% of Bitcoin, 97% of the supply of Bitcoin is already out there. For the next 120 years, 3% of Bitcoin will come onto the market. So demand's going up, the supply is going down and down and down. And that's going to create the greatest opportunity of a lifetime. It's just math. Yeah, you're probably not wrong. He said, stop talking about, or he or she, sorry, it's 2023. But if I knew your name, I would call you by what sex you are. Stop talking about the post office. The motherfuckers will figure it out. I can't believe that they haven't. And that's one thing. I don't like talking about politics, especially on the show. That's not what it's about. But we have the biggest morons working in government, and their focus is not on anything relevant. Their focus is on other countries. Their focus is on stealing as much from us and lining their own pockets as possible. They're not even, this isn't even in their view right now. They're so far behind with the tax legislations. It's a mess. Small rant here. So I'm an accountant. I was a CPA for 8 years. I worked at an accounting firm. And so I still have a bunch of my old friends and colleagues on LinkedIn. And there's been a ton of people bitching on there about the federal government, the CRA in Canada, and how they're just absolutely obliterating any communications, any new legislation, any changes they're trying to make. It's an absolute shit show. So if they can't even get a grasp on that, they're not even thinking about Bitcoin right now. They're 10,000 steps behind. So although it is good, and I'm sure if they figured it out, what's happening in terms of being able to buy Bitcoin anonymously, they would shut it down. But the fact that Canada Post itself is a federal agency or federal, I guess, entity, good enough for me. And yeah, trying to explain Bitcoin to people, and this is something. We're back. That's the joys of living in a rural community. I'm surprised it hasn't happened on one of these shows yet, to be honest with you. Every Wednesday night, me and my little brother and one of our best friends do a golf pod or a golf show live on YouTube. And pretty much every episode, my internet goes down at least once. So that's just kind of expected at this point. But what I was just about to talk about was this. And this is something we did an episode on lessons learned in Bitcoin. And I said, focus your energy on people who actually want to learn. But I think, at this exact moment in time, you kind of have to, anybody that you care about in your life, you have to force yourself to explain it to them and try to get a little bit at least. Think about where they're at, think about what they value, and then try to spin the conversation based on that. Don't just start coming out with a bunch of different facts about Bitcoin. Figure out where they're at and cater to that, because they'll be much more accepting, I think, even though it might not work. But I still think that we have to try. Anybody you care about, don't worry about people on Twitter. Don't worry about coworkers, your friends, your family. Focus on that. Don't think it was the NSA that shut me down. I think it was just poor internet. And yeah, so the comment here says, that's why you're so good in finance. Bravo. Would I do it again? Probably. It was 6 years of schooling, a ton of work, but I think that the foundation I got there just from dealing with small businesses, seeing the ins and outs of businesses. I don't really give a shit about the tax stuff, especially now, but just seeing how companies operate and their cash flow and all that kind of stuff, and just having that sort of knowledge, I think has helped me quite a bit. The issue that I do have, though, is that I went to school, I went to college, university, and then I did the CPA program, which is kind of like the master's version of that. But in university, I minored in economics. And it wasn't until 2020, until the pandemic, until the world shut down, that I actually learned what money was. So I went through school, I paid my money, I got my fancy little degree, got my minor in economics. And it wasn't until I started learning on my own from the internet, from YouTube, about money, what real money is. I had no idea where money came from. I had no idea about Keynesian economics versus Austrian economics. I totally wrote off Bitcoin because I was so consumed in that system and thought it was just absolute BS, Ponzi scheme. And that was a very ignorant thing on my behalf. I'll admit that. I didn't even take a second look at it. I just instantly thought that it was a scam, Ponzi scheme. And I think that was part of who was giving me that message. I didn't trust the person or the people that were telling me about Bitcoin. And so I automatically associated it with them and put, I don't know. And even at that stage, would I have figured it out? I didn't have a clue what money was. So how could I know if Bitcoin had any value? I don't know. Anyways, that has been hump day today. We're over half an hour again. I got to shut this down. So I hope you have a great day, a great Wednesday. And I hope that you'll at least think about and consider talking to friends, family. We got holidays coming up. It's the time to do it. You got lots of time with them. Also consider sharing this video with them or sharing another video that I've done in the last couple of weeks. And maybe they'll start getting interested. That's kind of the point here, is that if you just tune in every morning or a couple mornings every week, even if you don't really understand exactly what I'm talking about, I think just by hearing it over and over again and hearing the different terminologies and thought process behind it, I think that that's how I learned. I listened to podcasts that I had absolutely no idea what they were talking about, but I listened to it again the next week and then the next week. And then finally I started to connect dots. And I think that that's how all this happens. And yes, thank you, Rick. Smash the like if you don't mind. The whole idea here is that we want to get this in front of more eyes. We want more people to start caring about money, learning about what real money is and how Bitcoin can fix the majority of the world's issues. Not everything, but it can fix the majority of the things that we're going through right now. So have an amazing day. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. And consider sharing this or other videos that you find interesting with friends and family. And we'll see you right back here first thing tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.